The Inca Babies began as a band in 1982 when I was a student at Manchester Polytechnic, somewhere over there. I lived in Hulme. I was 21. Hulme is roughly sort of city centre, and it's a lot different now than it was then. At the time, what I was interested in Hulme, I guess, was things like Americana, movies, art clubs and parties. But what I was absolutely obsessed with was music and bands. Gigs, the music press, record collections, going to see bands, trying to ingratiate myself with bands, ligging, trying to get promoters on my side, trying to get DJs to play my records. All of this, I was obsessed with it. Bands and music. And the great thing about Hulme in the 80s was the culture and the melting pot of ideas meant that musically there were some amazing possibilities. And after a while, before we knew where we were, it has turned into some kind of bohemian quarter without us even realizing. And a lot of my friends also had the same kind of ambitions that I did. Things like extravagant ideas of being part of the counterculture and indeed popular culture at the time. This spot here was Charles Barry Crescent, and I was in a flat 135, which was about here. I was also in a flat over there, which was 257. And the interesting thing about these crescents is there were 4 of them, and you could hear bands rehearsing, you could hear music playing, you could go and visit the most extraordinary amount of people. Ed Barton had a gallery there where he kept the most objects that he'd found, and it was really up over there, way up the top of the crescent there, was the kitchen run by Jamie Nicholson. A certain ratio used to rehearse. I'm not sure if it's in this crescent or another one. James actually once did a video, I think it was Come Home, and they performed it right on the grass here. Unfortunately, it was never shown because a load of people came out and were smoking. And of course, in those days, MTV wouldn't show your video if somebody was smoking in the video. But all life was there. It attracted the most extraordinary amount of creative minds and brilliant people. With student friends from Hulme, I formed the Inca Babies. Bill was reading history, Alan geography, Pete economics, Julian art, and Mike graphic art. From these learned soulmates, most eager to be distracted from their studies, the band was formed. And in true punk spirit, we released a self-financed 7-inch single, The Interior, in 1983. Julian left, Mike joined, and a couple of other guitarists came and went along the way. We toured, we released albums, we recorded Peel sessions until in 1988, when acid house, rave and dance exploded onto the scene and was so completely alien to our sound, we found it difficult to realistically continue. It was an end, but not the end. Then in 2006, Cherry Red Records phoned us up and said they wanted to put out a compilation, an Inca Babies compilation, like a best of. And we thought, absolutely, yes, why not? And so what do? We put the band back together again. Myself, Rob Haynes and Bill Martin. And then from 2006, we put out 4 albums. Bill sadly passed. We toured all around the world. We went to Los Angeles, we went to Chennai in India, and all across Europe as well. Until now, the present day, 2024, when we're actually releasing our 9th studio album. It might be our last, it might not be, but the name of the album is Ghost Mechanic 9. Ghost Mechanic 9 for miles and miles, yeah. The whole process began in 2022 with lengthy rehearsals to get the songs in shape. We would collect ourselves at Media City and hunker down in noise boy rehearsal studios for whole afternoons at a time to explore how we could find the right sound and creative flow to make this our absolute best record yet. As with a lot of recording endeavours, if you can get the songs down pat first time, you save a lot of expensive time faffing about in the studio with arrangements and performance. Gone are the days when you could go to LA for a year and record an album which you just made up as you went along. But then that's not always likely to produce a masterpiece. So here we are in Salford at 6dB, our favourite studio, with Simon Ding Archer on the controls. We started recording the album with no actual time limit. It was to be finished when it was mixed, mastered and pressed. 9 tracks would make it onto the final running order, but there were a number of other ideas that were tried out and discarded, not to mention extended remixes and dub versions. Picking the 9 tracks was about a musical balance, but like any Inca's album, there were other considerations. This record is a collection of guitar songs bringing together dark riffs and tall tales and rediscovering things like Opium Den and Big Jugular, and hopefully bringing together some new triumphs on the way. I am an isolated mercenary boy. Opium Dub is a new take on an old classic, Opium Den. The track was first recorded for the album of the same name. It was an exaggeration on Hulme parties and Moss Side blues, where weekend after-hour get-togethers would disappear long into the following days and nights. Some say it was about the Kitchen, a party flat run by the late Jamie Nicholson in the 80s in Charles Barry Crescent. In 1985, the track Opium Den was picked up by filmmakers Adam T. Burton and Mike Confrey to make a superb 8mm black and white film of a fanciful scenario of just such a party in a Hulme flat, in this case 138 John Nash Crescent. The people were all Hulme residents. The drama, however, came from horror and gangster noir. Opium Den, why someone has to train on the gears to wonder, yeah, I wonder. And in this version of Opium Den, we're extending it on an epic scale of 6 minutes 40 seconds. And we're actually going to mess about with the DNA and take it somewhere where we always thought it needed to go. In playing the song live from 2012 onwards, we found ourselves jamming out long riffs and creating dub-like effects of extended drum patterns and creative use of a Boss Space Echo guitar pedal. Sometimes we would find ourselves indulging in 10-minute instrumentals, and while excessive, it was definitely an area we wanted to capture in time for the new album. With the making of the album having stretched over 2 years, it was at one point a project that I didn't want to finish as I was having so much fun, but wasn't entirely satisfied with what we had yet. And the fact that I kept writing new songs, which would have to be considered for inclusion for the final 9, made for a constantly changing landscape. Sometimes a new song could be a cut-up process. For example, the track I'm Staying Put. So I would borrow a guitar riff from an oldish jazz blues record, say James Blood Ulmer's TV Blues from 1980, and then our trusted man on horns, Kevin G. Davey, would lay down some gorgeous soulful trumpet from his London base and send it down the line to me. Bass lines and guitars are also prepared to be reassembled in 6 dB. I would have the lyrics and record them at home. Then Rob would compose the final drum track and Ding would be there to do his magic. And often it actually worked. The fact that the process took a long time, mainly because I wanted to listen over and over to the songs to make sure that they worked, meant that many ideas came and went. Some were inspired, others seemed to come from the madness within. At one time, I thought I saw the diggers of the building site behave like insects, like an insect symphony. Surely it should have been the other way around, but it calmed me to think that maybe I was somehow on the right track. Eventually, all that was left to do was mixing, listening and re-listening, trying to decide if a beat needed more compression or a guitar had enough fuzz. The process is arduous, but with each listening it was clear that we had something really exciting on our hands. The final mix was completed in April 2024. It was then sent over to Marco Butcher in North Carolina, USA, to his Boombox studio, where it was mastered and ready for the pressing plant. Just a matter of some artwork, and it was finished. And about time too. The big boxes of vinyl arrived today, Tuesday the 29th of November 2024. And this is something I always look forward to, and the excitement is never dulled by repetition. Every time I release a new record, the joy and magnitude of holding the physical product, as we've now come to recognize it as, never fails to fill me with a certain nostalgia of my 21-year-old self when I got that first record in my hands. I remember records as a way of identity and self-fulfillment, and moreover the only way to listen to your favourite music. Most radio stations certainly weren't going to play what you liked or even what you released. They still don't. Such is the difficulty of distribution these days, I have to direct you to the Universal Shop, which basically is my Bandcamp site. Here, I've only pressed a few, certainly less than 1,000, so please let me know if you'd like to get one. I think it's pretty damn good. I hope you do too.